Yo, what is up, guys? Remember the flying elephant card? Well, we've got it in action here. This is a win condition similar to Yugioh or like Destiny board. It's a win condition. This card is really hard to pull off, but there's a lot of different ways you could actually pull it off. At first, I thought there was maybe like either one or two different ways. There's actually a lot of ways and a lot of combos to actually pull this off, but it's not easy, okay? Just as a heads up, it's not consistent. This deck is pretty 2 out of 10. This guy gets savaged over here by the top deck because the guy activates Spirits of White, pops the back row, but Return of the Front Lines is activated. The Yugioh Invader is actually going to pop the card, but it's actually immune to be popped. You can use Infected Mail, you can use Shooting Star Bow CL, or if there's nothing on board, no monsters left on the field. Could be Dark Magician, but in this case, it's Flying Elephant, and you're actually just going to get a win condition. So shoutouts for Magus for this one. I got a few different builds, so I want to show you guys different ways that you guys can actually pull it off, as well as different ways to kind of combo with the card. This guy actually playing Yugioh. So, if you guys don't know what Flying Elephant does, while these plays are going off, I want to go ahead and explain what the heck this thing is, because I know my camera's slightly blocking some of the effects. So, it's a new card. It's supposed to be involving something related to the fairy tale deck. I mean, Dumbo is a Disney character. But anyways, Flying Elephant, I mean, it's basically Dumbo. But anyways, it says the first time this card would be destroyed by opponent's card effect during your opponent's turn, it is not destroyed. And then once per turn during your opponent's end phase, if this effect was used this turn, apply the following during your next turn. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, you win the duel. So it has to not only be destroyed by your opponent's card effect on your opponent. Well, I guess it technically could be. Well, technically it has to be your opponent's card effect. But we'll talk about that in a second because you can basically use your own, but you'd be giving the card to your opponent, so it would be technically the opponent of the card. But basically, your opponent has to try to destroy this card. But when you give them cards like Yugioh Invader, which forces them to actually destroy this card, you then make yourself immune to being destroyed. But then you have to get a direct attack, and it has to inflict battle damage. There's a lot of things that can make this thing go wrong. In fact, there are so many ways that this thing gets completely destroyed. In fact, those of you guys that watched me try to pull it off during my live stream understand it's a very not easy way to win the duel via this. Like, this guy was playing Yugioh. If you're playing against what I would consider like slightly meta over here, you would just get absolutely destroyed. Now, this one's a little bit interesting. So, there's a lot of cards that can actually work quite well in the deck, and this is why I wanted to show you guys a few different replays. I'm going to showcase off mine as well, just showing off different ways that you can pull it off. But basically, you can either give it to your opponent and then destroy it via your own card effect, but since your opponent controls the card, it's considering it being the opponent's card effect. So basically, you could Dark Hole your own card as long as your opponent currently controls it. There's Xian Spy, there's Creature Swap over here, which is another way you can pull it off. But then you need to eventually get it back, so you'd have to re-Creature Swap, remove Brainwashing. There's, gosh. We tried a lot of different ways to actually pull this off. I don't really feel like this is anything that most of you guys should be worried about, though. It's not going to be one of those decks where, like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. It's like the Magician OTK or anything that would be consistent enough. It's not like Goki's where you're just going to straight lose to it. Yeah, you could randomly lose to it, but it's not consistent enough, again, to worry any of you competitive players in the game. Not that you guys probably that are competitive players would even want to watch a Flying Elephant video, but it's more for the memes than anything, and you know, it's from the anime. But anyways, he's got this Cerberus over here. It's going to get a bunch of counters, but another cool card that I didn't actually consider in my build was Mystic Tomato, which can let you get, of course, Armageddonite, which can then let you send your Yugioh Invader here. Now, Yugioh Invader was actually seen in a lot of different builds, but anyways, when this card is normal or special summoned to a zone that is not in the main center zone, destroy this card. But then once per turn, you can move this card to an unused adjacent monster zone. Each time exactly one monster is normal or special summoned to your opponent's field, move this card to the adjacent main monster zone closer to that opponent's monster, then destroy all other cards in this card column. So basically, you're able to force destroy, and in this case, he got kind of pranked by this card having a bunch of spell counters, and then he just went ahead and Creature Swapped it. So Creature Swap is just a fantastic card. But I also wanted to mention King of the Feral Imps, which is actually a generic ring 4 that actually can search you out this guy because he happens to be a reptile. We'll talk more a little bit about like other searchable cards here in a second. So this one courtesy of Sue over here. So this one is just using Shooting Star Bow CL. I mean, there's a lot of cards, and I just kind of wanted to showcase off a few other cards. Now, this one was actually in a lot of different builds. This is give and take. So, you special summon one monster from your graveyard to your opponent's side of the field in defense position and increase the level of one monster you control by the level of the special monster until the end phase. Basically, what you do is you give them your Yugioh Invader, and then you go ahead and increase the level of one monster. The problem that I have with give and take is you actually have to control a monster. In this case, we have a number 41 Tapir. So basically, this card is actually okay to stall, unless, of course, you get Kaiju'd, but in this case, Adrius is going to go ahead and tackle more. But he's got Give and Take, Scapegoat, Return to the Front Lines. And then we have another card that I wanted to mention, which is Desmania Devil. So when this card destroys an opponent's monster in battle, you get to add a level 4 or lower beast monster from your deck to your hand, which of course can be Flying Elephant. I find this card to be a lot too slow. I just wouldn't really recommend running this card. However, cards like Mystic Tomato and Armageddon Knight can obviously help kind of speed up things. In addition to that, Witch of the Black Forest can sort of shoot out a lot of different cards in general. But he's got the Yugioh Invader, but he's going to go ahead and activate backs to the front, and this card is going to be there, and it's going to actually proc its effect. And then all he needs to do is equip Shooting Star Bow CL, get that direct attack, because it doesn't matter how much damage you do, you can just win the duel. So I just wanted to showcase off a lot of the other cards. And then I think now we're getting into mine over here. So I was running a lot of different cheesy. I tried a lot of different stuff. In fact, a lot of you guys recommended me to try some of these other cards, because I've seen the Yugioh one. There was actually an OCG guy that did that. But I wanted to try a lot of different builds. Now this guy, he quits. But I mean, granted, it's a Warrior from Another Planet deck, which is usually a very cheesy deck. We get a free Pot of Greed courtesy of the Cup of Ace. Then we Soul Taker him. Then we go ahead and summon the Flying Elephant. We're going to give my opponent via the effect of Sheehan Spy. So what I'm doing is I'm going to give him that monster until the end phase. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to Dark Hold. This is what I was talking about before. You can technically use your own cards, and then it'll count as your opponent's because, well, he controls the elephant. So I'm going to activate that. It's going to actually proc its effect because, well, we Dark Hold, and it's going to protect itself. And he's going to go ahead and attack into me. We're going to go ahead and bounce back so there's nothing left on the field. No monsters left on the field. Makes it pretty easy for Flying Elephant to pull off the win condition. I think this one... Oh, no, wait, it's not this one. Sorry, my bad. Wrong one. I did it like 3 different times, and I did it in different builds. We also were messing around with like Owner Seal. Like, there's a lot of different builds to actually pull this off. In fact, we were even using a Raigeki Break just so we can destroy our own monster here. I mean, most of these duels, the guy isn't playing something meta. Honestly, if you played against a meta deck, this thing would just fall apart like 99% of the time. You'd have to believe like super in the heart of the cards here. I was running a Magical Mallet. So another thing I was trying to do, I was trying to run Gozen Match over here, and I made it so they could only control Flying Elephant. So I'm activating Raigeki Break, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip up Gozen Match. So he has to control a, was this one the attribute. I was actually playing Rivalry of Warlords as well. So basically this guy is forced to side. He just rage quit on me, so it kind of sucks. But nonetheless, it was just another card that I was interested in trying out. Now this guy is playing some Blackwings, the newer one. But, well, getting out the Blackwing doesn't really matter because I'm just going to attack him directly. So he goes ahead and makes a Witchling, which isn't really like a big deal at all. But Activating Desires, you guys will see, like, I've been messing around with like Magical Mallet and Desires in like a lot of different decks that are cheesy oriented. So we're activating Smashing Ground. Interesting enough, since these don't have defense, it's always going to be this card. He's going to go ahead and go for the effect, summon Nathung. He's going to do some damage to me, and then he's going to go ahead and bounce back that for Zephyros. Doesn't really matter. He enters his battle phase, activated T-Roar, and since I already destroyed the card via Smashing Ground via my own turn, because I gave it to him, he just rage quits on me because, well, Flying Elephant is going to hit him because we already threatened Roared, so he couldn't really do anything this turn unless, of course, he was going to Link Summon in. I don't think he really had any plays. But yeah, I mean, you could lose to a Castell or something. That's very, very possible. But anyway, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the deck. Okay, this is a completely different deck. Okay, so we actually built several versions of the deck. So this card isn't out yet. So this is a card that should be a quick play. But it's supposed to come out. This is a card I briefly wanted to mention, but it all depends on the real effect because this is currently like the anime effect. It's supposed to skip one turn to be your battle phase of your next turn. So the idea was to end phase, have that effect and then go straight to the battle phase and then attack directly with, of course, the Mischief of the Time Goddess, which you'd have to have an equipped versus infected mana. But also, This is the one where I was running Soul Taker, and I beat the guy that summoned like the warrior from another planet. But yeah, the deck isn't really consistent. Like I said, I was trying out a lot of different builds. Yugioh is possible. Like I said, there's so many ways where you can just lose, because if you give your opponent Yugioh, that's a free monster that they can just use to go into something that obviously gets rid of your flying elephant, because it only protects itself once, and if you're giving your opponent that Yugioh, then it's blowing up that one destruction anyways. So you gotta watch out for that. What I was actually trying at one point was like the Mirror Force cards. That way, I didn't have to like do anything to their monsters, because the board would be empty, and then I wouldn't have to run things that would attack directly, like Infected Bale or Shooting Star Bow CL or any of these other like random cards. But yeah, I was running the Shion Spy, and then this was another build that I had. So this one, you really had to go first, alright? So basically, you can Mystic Box them so you can destroy their monster, and you would just give them Flying Elephant. That was the goal. Give them Flying Elephant, right? And then you would Goes and Match and Revelry Warlord them, so they would only control like a flying, a beast flying. That's a Pokemon type. They would control Flying Elephant, which would be Beast and Wind, and they could only control that. And there's not that many cards if you go into, where is it? Wind, and also well, it's going to be Effect, and then you go to Beast over here. There's not that many that people actually. Whoops, Beast. Yeah, Beast. Okay, so there's not really very many things that people would play that would be considered meta in the game that are Wind and Beast. I mean, there's some of the Usenjus, there's I guess Pegasus, but like honestly, there's not that many cards that like in the game that people would be running that happen to be these two. So like the game plan was to Goes and Match and Revelry Warlords. One guy quit on me because well he couldn't summon anything, and I think I had his monster, but. Basically, you make it so they can only control this monster, and basically through that you're able to stall, unless of course they, tribute summon something that happens, because even if they want to tribute, it has to be the same type, or if they want to link summon, or any of those things, right? So for the most part, like, they're just going to be stuck with this, and you could take some damage from Flying Elephant, and eventually you activate a card like Regeki Break, Ring of Destruction, or like another Mystic Box or something, and then you eventually just try to get it. It's not really a good build, honestly. Yugioh is probably much better, or the build that this one where you're bouncing things back. There's a lot of different ways that people can run it, but don't worry, guys, it's not really competitive at all. But anyways, that's the Flying Elephant, the really, really dumb OTK deck. I don't think it's going to be good, but if you guys got any other cool ideas of how to improve this deck, I would love to know in the comment section below. But anyway, shout out to all you guys for sending in some of those replays. I like seeing like the variety and different ways we can pull off a really Dumbo OTK. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the vid. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button to see more Yu-Gi-Oh content. And also, if you want to send in some replays of anything that is new in Yu-Gi-Oh, feel free to go ahead and send in to azneyesreplays@gmail.com and you can get featured. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I'm signing out.